Why are Australian politicians celebrating India's Republic Day harder than Australia Day? That's the issue, that's why I'm upset, and that's why I've noticed so many other Australians are not imagining it. On Australia Day, people have watched their elected leaders openly, happily promote other countries' national celebrations. Carefully written posts and pride-filled language, photos, graphics, and a lot of effort. Then, today has happened, Australia Day. And Australia, we've got absolutely nothing. And from the Prime Minister of Australia, we received 4 words. Happy Australia Day, everyone. That's not symbolism, that's obligation. And Australians, for me, I've snapped, and a lot of other Australians have snapped as well. Not because they're fragile, not because they need emojis or flags, but because they've recognised something instantly. Priority. And honestly, once you see it, you can't unsee it. And I just want to shut down the usual dodgers immediately. This is not an attack on Indian people. This is not an attack on Australian Indians, or I'm not opposing multiculturalism. That defence is lazy and dishonest, and Australians are tired of it and being wheeled out every single time leadership is being questioned. And this is why our leaders' relationship with Australia itself. National days really do matter. They always have, and they're not just celebrations, they're signals. They want to show what leaders are actually comfortable standing behind and what they speak about with confidence, and not what they'd rather rush past. And this year, the signal could not have been any clearer. When it comes to India's Republic Day, the enthusiasm I have seen on social media from multiple elected officials was effortless. When it comes to Australia Day, that enthusiasm simply vanished. That's why people are angry. Not because it wasn't subtle, it wasn't accidental, and I'm not misinterpreting this as well. Australia saw the effort directed outward, and the restraint, it was directed inward. Now let's talk about old Anthony Elbow, because this is where it becomes really unavoidable. Old Elbow doesn't post casually. Nothing from the Prime Minister account is spontaneous. He has a very dedicated social media team behind him. So every single word is drafted, reviewed, approved, and it's very strategic. So when Australia Day gets 4 flat words and nothing else, that's not a mistake. That's a very carefully planned choice. And Australians understand exactly what that choice meant. They went to the comment section and absolutely exploded, and that's why I'm stirred up today and making this video as well. Not with confusion, not with debate, but I'm recognizing what is actually going on. And some of the people were saying that this feels forced. This looks reluctant. That hurt to write, and stating that this is just the bare minimum. Yes, some comments in that section, I will admit, did go a little bit far, but that is going to happen when everybody is so upset. But politicians love to focus on the worst comments so they don't have to address the core message. And the core message was simple. People feel that their own country is treated like a political liability, and this reaction didn't come out of nowhere. Australians are under pressure like they haven't been for decades. Cost of living is relentless. Housing is unattainable for many people. Crime, look at the crime, is rising in places that used to feel safe. Energy bills are crushing households, and law-abiding firearm owners are being treated like terrorists. Trust is already paper thin. So when Australia Day arrives, people aren't looking for a party. They're looking for reassurance. They want to hear that the country still matters. They want the people running it to actually believe in it. That Australia isn't something to apologise for. Instead, they've watched their leaders promote another nation proudly and tiptoe around their own. And here is the mistake political leaders keep making. They think Australians want nationalism. I personally think they don't. Australia wants consistency. If you can speak passionately about other nations, cultures and celebrations, but go quiet and cautious when it comes to Australia, I tell you, we start to draw conclusions. You don't get to decide whether those conclusions are fair. You only get to decide whether you keep reinforcing them. And this year, they were reinforced extremely hard. You can celebrate diversity and celebrate Australia. Those are not opposites. You can acknowledge Indigenous history. You can recognise the injustice. You can accept Australia is a very complex place, and still speak positively about Australia today. But what Australians saw wasn't balance. They saw discomfort. They saw embarrassment. Say less, show nothing, and move on very quickly. That approach doesn't build unity. It breeds resentment. It continues to fracture Australia because people don't feel included. They feel sidelined. And this is where it becomes very, very dangerous, because this wasn't just anger. It was resignation. People weren't saying, how could this happen? They were saying, of course it happened. This is the moment leaders should be actually very worried of, because outrage still means that people do care. Recognition people means that people are still checking out. They stop listening, they stop trusting, and they stop believing in anything is going to change. And once that happened, no press release, no apology, and no carefully worded posts will fix it. Australia Day, yes, will always be debated. That's normal. But leadership means standing in for debate, not dodging it. Say what you believe, explain it honestly, and accept disagreement. Australians can handle that. What they can't handle anymore is leaders who act like believing in Australia is politically dangerous. Because when politicians promote other nations with pride and treat Australia like an inconvenience, people hear that message extremely loud and clear. Australia, in the eyes of politicians, comes last. And that's why I'm so frustrated. Not because of this post, but because of what this post from multiple politicians has revealed. You cannot lead a country if you're afraid to stand behind it. Let me know your thoughts in the comments.